Gemma, hi.
Hello.
Gemma from Murray McIntosh,
Yes.
Marketing Manager.
Yes, correct.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are
Welcome
you?
to our podcast. Welcome
Thank you.
to
It's
Talent
a very
Matters.
nice setup.
Thank you
Very
very
nice
much. Yeah, I had nothing to do with it. It was all Louise. So I just turn up. So yeah, you okay? You good?
Good. Very cold outside, but good.
It is cold. Yeah, it is cold. Just waiting for a bit of sun.
Yes,
Like,
I know.
the sun coming. But I did notice the other day it was like 5 o'clock
Yeah,
and it was light.
true.
So summer
We're
is
getting
coming.
there.
Summer is coming. It's the opposite to. Everyone said winter is coming on the Game of Thrones, but so yeah. Welcome to Talent Matters. Welcome to our podcast. We're going to talk today mostly about marketing and recruitment agency.
Sounds good.
Kind of get stuck into things that work, things that don't work. Kind of tech that helps, tech that doesn't help. Could talk about AI. We'll just kind of see where we go. But let's kind of dig into it. So I just before said, well, you've been at Murray McIntosh for 6 months,
Yep,
and
correct.
you said more like 4. But I'm going to assume that you've done so much work in those 4 months. You've done 6 months work in 4,
You
right?
could say that.
Yeah. Okay. So how's that gone? And just how's it gone?
Very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy. Just for context, we have 4 brands. Main brand, Murray McIntosh, and then we have 3 other brands, Water by Murray, Engineering by Murray, and Policy by Murray.
Yes.
They're all very different from each other. So it's a lot of work. A lot of consultants to work alongside. So yeah, but it's been good.
And does each of those brands, without kind of going into, we've sort of talked about brands on previous podcasts, but does each of those brands, they've all got different opinions in terms of where that brand should go, and you balancing kind of that, some of the internal conversations?
Between the brands?
Yeah.
I think they all have a clear vision of what they want to be. They all have very different target audiences, so the messaging is, for example, Policy will be a lot more formal than, for example, for Water. So the messaging's different, but the way we've planned it and the way we've worked it, because we're a very small team in terms of marketing, just myself, we've kind of made the same plan across all 3 teams, but then we're just changing the messaging. Yeah. So that makes it easier for everybody to know exactly where they're at, what we're doing, and everything else. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about the it being kind of just you.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, and some of the challenges that brings, and probably similar to other businesses as well within recruitment. But so the first 4 months, what have been the kind of the highs? What have been the big wins that you've made?
It's really hard to say because 4 months isn't enough to say these are the big wins.
Yeah.
The 4 months have basically been me meeting up pretty much weekly with every team, learning the industries. They're all very different industries to what I'm used to in my previous roles as well. Learning how the consultants work, learning what tech stack they're using, what they've done previously, what has worked in the past. So it's been a lot more around learning rather than actually going straight in and going, yes, we're doing this, and being a bit more of a random act of marketing. Yeah. So I think the good stuff is going to start now. And we've sort of got a plan in place that obviously will need adapting and changing as we go and as I learn more about the business as well.
So you've not been in and like ripped it all up and gone, let's start again.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I don't think any marketer should do that.
Yeah. I know a few that have.
Yeah. I don't know if it works or not. I'd love to talk to those people. But I that's one thing I don't want to do because it takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of a lot of money, a lot of time, and then you go in and consultants are going to be like, what is this? And also convincing the business to spend that much money and spend that much time. It's not viable in my opinion.
It's a big change, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it like you said, it does take a lot of resource, and it's quite a high risk strategy as well. What about your background? Because you said you just mentioned about your previous role. You've been in recruitment before, right?
Yes, so I have been a recruiter before. I was in it for 9 months.
Yes, good.
And the
smile says that there's a story here, so let's.
I got into it because I thought I really liked the people aspect of recruitment. I thought the industry was quite fast paced, which I really enjoyed, and things like that. And I thought I can actually do marketing for myself. And market me as a recruiter. But it turns out I hated cold calling.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with that.
Such an acquired taste.
So
isn't it?
yeah, and I'd done marketing for a few years previously, and I studied advertising and PR. So my background was sort of in marketing. So once I decided it wasn't for me to be a recruiter, I was like, right, I'm going to go back into marketing.
Yeah.
And I went into tech, SaaS to be specific. And I was there for 2.5 years or so. Really enjoyed it. Great company, great people. But then I saw an opportunity to sort of go back into that fast-paced recruitment space, but doing marketing, and I took it.
Yeah,
so,
brilliant. And
yeah.
that must have been, I mean, yeah, cold calling is such an acquired taste, isn't it? And I think a lot of people, it's quite a cliche, a lot of people fall into recruitment for a number of different reasons, but it's cool that you kind of tried that, looked at that, but then kind of almost come back into the industry without doing the things that you don't like doing, but other parts. The role that you were doing before in tech and SaaS, how much of that is a crossover between, or how much of that can you use in recruitment? Because they're quite different industries, although tech and SaaS supply into recruitment. But how can you, was there a lot of things from there that you've been able to, or thinking about implementing in recruitment?
I think most of it is very similar, if not the same. I think the tactics we use, the tools we use, pretty much the same. Obviously, you have to change the perspective. Now you're thinking about clients, candidates. You're working with job boards as well. So there's a few extras that I didn't have to use in tech.
Yeah.
But I was also a solo marketer. So
at the tech company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm very used to being by myself and just figuring things out as I go and sort of, yeah. So I think most of it is quite similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that recruitment sometimes it gets a bit of a bad, what's the word? A bit of a bad reputation for not always being up to speed with marketing strategies and functions?
Definitely. I've had, since I started at Murray McIntosh, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of marketers in recruitment to learn more about what they're doing. And I've heard all sorts of stories from no planning, no, how do you decide what you're going to do next month? Or we just decide on the day, you know. It's like, okay, cool. Now what?
See what's happening on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and go
see
from
what's
there.
happening on LinkedIn, and we'll follow the trend. And it's So I think that recruitment companies are definitely falling behind. I think that comes a bit from the sales part of it. It's very KPI focused. Recruitment consultants have always been like the main thing. So marketing has sort of fallen to one side. Consultants don't understand marketing most of the time. They don't think it's necessary. They know how to do sales, and that's all they need to get on with it. So, yeah.
And I mean, that comment there is quite interesting. Do you think it's marketing has been seen as a bit of a slipstream for sales? It's sales just with a different cape, in disguise.
Yeah, kind of. We're sort of I've heard it being called the colouring in department.
Yes. Don't mention that to Louise. He hates that. He hates that.
It's terrible. I've heard a lot of these marketers I've spoken to, they're just there to create slides, and to create content for the recruiters, and that's it. And
are they? Are they just there to colour in?
Oh no, of course not. Don't get me wrong, we do have to do slides and we do have to create content, and sometimes it is for the recruiters, but there's so much more to it that isn't seen and isn't. I think it's talked about, but yeah.
What do you think the primary function then is? So if I'm just going to get into the mindset of an old school recruiter that's all about KPIs, sales, get on the phone, make the cold calls, bring on the jobs, and then someone comes and, hey, we should have a marketing department. What do you think the primary function is for a marketing department within recruitment?
the way I sell it to the consultants I currently work with is I'm here to help you make money. That's the first thing I say, because that's most of the time their main goal.
Yeah.
And as soon as I say that, they sort of switch on and are
Then,
like,
oh,
okay,
tell me more.
tell me
Yes,
more.
I'm interested.
Yeah. And I always come prepared to those conversations with a plan of what that looks like. And I'm like, okay, look, if we create this, if as part of the strategy, if we create this type of content, which later you can share with all these people, and I can share with these other people through these other tactics and these other platforms, we're going to get this result. And they go, oh, okay, let's give it a go. Why not? And like, it sort of starts a conversation. I start with very small things.
Yeah.
It's never it's a very psychological thing. It's never going to change like with just one conversation. They need to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just showing that value over time. And a lot of the time I do have to say, be patient with me. This isn't sales. It doesn't happen overnight. And with marketing, a lot of marketing is pure psychology.
Yeah.
So it's, and again, you go to a psychologist and you don't, within one session, you don't expect to be better mentally.
Yeah.
You can't expect the same from marketing. It just doesn't happen. So yeah.
And how, we mentioned earlier, how is it kind of being the sort of sole person, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
That's unusual for a lot of businesses. When you work in marketing, there's normally 2 or 3 marketeers or marketing teams that do specialize in different things. How is it kind of having to do everything given the size of, the marketing strategies that are out there? How do you cope with that?
How do I cope with that? With a lot of coffee and a lot of meditation after work. But how do I cope with that? I just simplify, prioritize, and I'm always asking myself why, and that helps me do those things. And yeah, just simplify. I hate buzzwords. I hate just spending lots of time on something that doesn't quite work. It's just, I don't know. It also I guess getting consultants involved helps because you're by yourself. So I make consultants, for example, read blogs. I make them read the press releases that go out.
It's got a vision of you putting a blog in front and wheeling them over and going, read this.
Oh yeah, that's no, they're very helpful, and they actually do answer my emails and they do read it.
And I think one of the challenges, and you just mentioned it earlier around asking why and buzzwords. There's so many not maybe buzzwords, but fads. So many things you should be doing.
Yeah.
You talked about it earlier. Let's look on LinkedIn and see what's trending, and we'll just go ahead and do that. How do you, I suppose, asking the question why helps filter out the noise of what you could do and what you should do, right?
Yeah, correct.
And just jumping back into that persona of the old school recruiter that's just more about sales. It's all about ROI, right? So how do you then monitor some of the ROI? Does that come into it when you're asking why? The ROI? It's a bit of a mouthful, that, isn't it?
Yes. At the end of the day, the business is there to make money, whether we like that or not. So that always has to be a question. Okay, with this, are we going to get to that end goal?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a lot of smaller whys in between. But yeah, ROI is definitely part of it. You can't always track ROI, unfortunately. Data is, how do you say this? Data is complicated.
Yeah.
There's only so many things you can track. There's so many things you want to track. So it's how can we simplify that? How can we make sure we are tracking what we can track? And is that delivering on the end goal of making money at the end of the day?
And it's hard, isn't it, with data, because also it's complicated, and there's also hundreds of different ways you can look at it.
Yeah.
And you decide whether or not a 70% conversion rate is good or bad.
Yeah.
You make that decision, don't you? Or someone else makes the decision. But it's still 70%. So it does make it complicated. Do you think we're in a world of where we're trying to over-analyse every single
yes.
piece of data?
Oh yes, we tend to do that quite a lot. I think just because it's there doesn't mean it has to be read into. Sometimes, like followers on LinkedIn, for example, I love seeing how that number goes up. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really mean much, because then I look at the followers and I go, okay, how many of these followers are actually valuable to the business? How many of these followers are actually going to make us money? Probably not that many.
Yeah.
Not initially anyway. So why am I looking at this number?
Do you think we can sometimes get sucked into sort of, you know, a bit of a vanity project? You know, we've got 15,000 followers or whatever it is, and now it's 20,000, and look how great we are.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, you know, talk about psychology. That's the thing that's kind of gets us obsessed with growing follower numbers.
Yeah, and I think marketing is always trying to prove the value through numbers, and that's quite complicated because, as I said earlier, not everything can be tracked, and I think, how do I put this? Marketing. What do I want to say?
I don't know. Go on. But I'm sensing something controversial, so come on.
Basically, marketing is always trying to track everything because we're always trying to show our value of how much, and I think that happens too often. And I think a lot of marketers fall into that trap of trying to constantly prove and trying to put that data, like show the data, without it actually meaning anything. And sometimes those numbers are even made up.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but that doesn't actually tell the real story behind it.
Yeah.
And it's only because we're trying to prove the value rather than...
That makes real sense. And I guess what you're saying is, at times, maybe it feels like marketing is can be trying to prove itself. And maybe it's a bit insecure in terms of trying to demonstrate its worth for being here, in a world where it's all sales, instant return. I think that's really valid, because marketing within recruitment businesses is relatively new. You know, that's it's not uncommon to have recruitment businesses without a marketeer at all. You know, that was just, it was almost outsourced. The colouring in was outsourced to a graphic design business or whatever it is, you know, talking many moons ago. So I think it is on a bit of a catch up in that respect. And I think maybe going back to the tech company and the SaaS businesses and the growth curve that a lot of them go on, I think that's demonstrated the value of marketing to recruitment and should be almost looked at externally, to go look at that business, look at the growth curve that they went on. A lot of that will be based on sound marketing methodology rather than just having, you know, a bunch of people making 100 cold calls a day, because eventually that dries up a little bit. I think that's really fair. Okay, let's move on to what was I going to ask? About the tracking. We talked about data, a lot of data. What should people be tracking? What data should they be looking at? In the sea of all the different numbers and metrics and dashboards and everything you want to see, you're simplifying things. What should they look at? What is important?
Really depends on what your plan is, your marketing plan is, and depends what activities you think are going to work best. For us, we have, for example, we're very focused on good content and making sure that good content is out there, and making sure, so it's, for us, for example, we're really tracking like how many people, you know, download the content, and then how many replies do we get to that content as well, how many conversations can we start from that content, things like that. But it really depends on what you're doing. Internally, we're also tracking things like, for example, personal brand is a big thing, and I know you've spoken about it in a previous podcast episode, but internally we're tracking how many posts do our consultants post out, because that will also help our end goal. Again, it will really depend on the activities
so you
you're
start with what you want to achieve first, and then how you track it, rather than what can we track and do we like it or not.
Yeah, you start with the end goal. What's the end goal? How are we going to get there? And then, okay, with all these activities, what do we want to track? And
I bet that gets forgotten loads, doesn't it? I bet everyone goes,
I'm pretty sure it does.
We've got 5,000 people visit our website this month. That's brilliant, isn't
Great.
it? Let's see if we can make it 6,000.
Yeah, and now what?
But you just forget about why and who and whatever. I think there's definitely a kind of over obsession with numbers and data, and you know, we feed into that with the data that we, you know, push out in terms of people visiting websites, engagement on websites, people applying for jobs, etc., what job boards, etc. And it's a really, really good reminder that you look at that data, but decide first what you want to achieve, and then which bits of data can I use to feed into that. That's really...
Because also you need to adapt as you go. So all the activities you plan on doing, okay, we're going to track this. Why are we tracking it? What's it going to give us? And then can we use that data to improve what we're currently doing as well?
Coming back to why again.
Get there to get to the goal.
Yeah.
So simplify and why constantly in my brain.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. And
Over
coffee.
and over. And coffee.
So with the irony of this next question isn't lost on me, but what tactics are you using at the minute that are really working for you? You know, you've got to do kind of everything on your, so you're looking at things like presumably SEO, PPC, the branding, mailing list, automation, all sorts of everything, whatever it is. Now, assuming that you've got your objective in mind, let's just make that clear. We've got an objective, but what tactics are you using at the minute that you're getting good results from, and that are really kind of working for you, or you advocate?
So it's really hard to give all the credit to one tactic, because marketing
but that's
is
what
psychology.
Everyone wants. They want to know that one's
it's
bad.
Not sales. We can't.
It's changed everything.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So it's a combination of tactics and how you bring them together to get to that end goal. So unfortunately, I can't just say it's email.
Yeah.
I can say really good content really helps, and then choosing the channels where your audience is at. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say having really good content for the markets we work in is actually really good. And then something like partnerships, which isn't spoken enough about, is also really good, because you get to tap into associations and people that belong to groups that you might not necessarily interact with.
What does that look like? What do you mean by partnerships specifically?
So in the industries we work in, there's a lot of organisations out there that basically bring together a lot of the people who technically are our target audience. So it's okay, the group's there, how can we make use of that? How can we give them something that they need, and how can they help us get what we need? So it's working with those organisations to sort of make that work.
I think that's quite interesting, because again, that then is a direct opposite for sales, isn't it? Whereby you've got assuming some sort of like a member organisation or a trade body or something like that. The sales approach is just go straight in and kind of hit them all over the head, and kind of just sell to them all. Whereas a marketing approach is more partner led in terms of what can we do for you, how can we help, what value can we bring to your members and associates within that group. So it's quite a difference between the two, right?
Yeah, but I think sales does think strategically, and I think sales, if they're not, should apply also that thought of, okay, how can we give to get back, basically. So I don't think it's just a marketing thing. I think sales do it as well. But maybe in different ways.
All right. What's not working? What's not working?
God, what's not working? One-off emails, one-off LinkedIn posts without consistency, one-off pieces of content, one-off, anything one-off.
Yes.
Without any planning, any thought behind it, unless you go viral with that one thing, it doesn't work.
1 in a million,
which
as
is
well.
one, yeah.
Right.
That doesn't work. What else doesn't work? I'm sure there's lots of things out there that don't work.
I think that's really really good and really sound, because again, trying to move away from buzzwords and fads and whatever. And you kind of mention, like, email, email's dead, this is the next thing, whatever it is, everything's dying and then reincarnating and whatever. And we see it with a lot of our clients. The thing that we tend to talk about the most is consistency across the methods that you're applying, and just a one-off. I think that's really really sound.
Consistency is absolutely key to anything, really, not just to marketing, to any department, anything in life. Just
I think that's brilliant. So content then, where do you start with content? Because people talk about it a lot, and you have to create good content. But what is good content? Like, how do you even know where to start with that? Where do you start with it?
I'm going to talk obviously from our perspective. Somebody else might think differently in a different industry. We work with very technical people, engineering, very, again, technical people. So it's kind of understanding through the conversations that consultants have what problems are they having. Also reading the news every day, what's going on in the world, because we know that those are the things they're going to be interested in. So it's okay, how can we create content around that is going to make them want to click on this and read this. So I think a good starting point is research. Just asking the questions. Don't just look at the numbers. Also talk to people. Read the news. Things like that. And then once you actually post it, also ask the question: what did you think about that article? What did you think about this piece of content? And I don't think there's a specific way of saying this is good. It will be very different for everybody.
So make it relatable to the people that you're trying to talk to. Keep it relatable, and then again consistent with it. So don't just write one piece of content and go, I've done my piece of content for the year, I'll come back this time next year, and that will still be relevant. It's got to be a consistent approach. I often think sometimes it's to try and almost assume and think about what the candidates or clients are reading and thinking, what's going on in their world, and making it relatable to them, as you said, with knowing what's happening in the news and whatever. Okay, so can't have any sort of podcast without talking about AI. Everyone talks about AI, right? Everyone's got different opinions on it. Where do you sit with AI within recruitment and then within recruitment marketing? What's good, what's bad, what are you worried about, what's going to be brilliant, what's a waste of time?
I can't say what's good, what's bad, but what I can say is I think it should be used. I think you need to be careful about how you use it. I think AI needs to be proofread. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Just using AI isn't just writing an article in AI, copying and pasting is a big no.
It's a no-no.
Is a no-no. It also comes with a lot of bias as well, which can be a problem. So yeah, I think it should be used. I think it needs to be carefully used, and obviously things like don't put data in there that you don't want the world to know.
Yes, yeah.
I don't really know where we're going with it in terms of as a what do you call it? As a society.
As a world.
As a world.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going with it. So I can't really comment on that. Is it scary? Some days. The amount of stuff that can be done with AI. But from a marketing perspective, I think right now it should be used, but obviously carefully.
Yeah. I suppose it's the whole thing, isn't it, with talking about creating good content.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just generate AI content that isn't relatable, that isn't specific, that clearly reads like it's been generated by AI, rather than something that has been crafted by a person. And maybe you know, it was originated with AI and then changed and adapted and whatever. But you're saying you have to read it and make sure that you're not just...
Yeah. Well, a lot of the times you can do it and then please write this as a human, and it will actually like change it and it will make it sound a lot more like a human. So
another little tip there. Yeah.
And I do know some big organisations that actually do all their content through AI.
Yeah.
And I do think and it does save them a lot of resources. But yeah, it's just being careful about it. I do think things like blogs, for example, most of the time are mainly for SEO purposes. And in that case, you probably are quite happy with just AI writing it, because you tell it the keywords you want and it kind of comes up with something. You just read it through and then it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be careful about how you use it.
I think that's wise, and it's changing all the time, isn't it? And you know, it's developing at such a rate that who knows kind of where we're going to be, and you know how it's going to be used and adopted by society. So we'll see with that one, won't we? Yeah. So sticking with tech, then, you know, what sort of tech should you know, it's just you're doing got a big job. Like, what tech do you use to help you? What works, and maybe what doesn't? What don't you need? If you're just starting, kind of.
I'm not going to say brand names, because I think that will depend on the company itself, budgets. It will depend on the actual what it does and what you need it to do. But in terms of like the actual tools, I'd say things like a project management tool. So something you can track everything, all your campaigns on, everything you're doing. I'd say analytics, things like GA4, things like that. Your website will probably track a lot of it as well. What else? Social media will track itself, and then we use a business intelligence platform where we just bring it all in.
There's quite a lot of tech there, isn't there? There's quite a different...
An email automation platform, SEO platform. So I'd say there's about like 7 or 8 tools that we use on a day-to-day basis, basically. Yeah. And then what we've done is we've brought it all into one dashboard where you can just read the numbers that you need to have a quick look when you don't actually need to do something on it, but just look at numbers.
Can you do it without tech, without those platforms?
You could, I think, but it would be very complicated. Very hard. I'm thinking, for example, project management tool. Could you do it? Yeah, you could write it all on paper.
Yeah.
Would it waste a lot of your time? Yes.
Whiteboards and you know, the post-it notes and whatever it is.
It would probably take a lot of your time, which at the end of the day is also money. So yes, but it probably wouldn't be wise.
Do you think that's one of the reasons then why you are able to do it? Like, you know, perform a full, you know, 360 marketing role, just you, because of the tech that you've got, and without that, you would need help. Yeah. You know.
Without that, we wouldn't be able to do half as much as what we do. So, yeah, definitely needed, I think, anyway.
So, what's next then? You know, so you've kind of done all of your, and no trade secrets, don't give us any trade secrets. No, do give us some trade secrets. You spent 4 months doing 6 months work, looking at everything. What's in the pipeline then for the next six months at Murray McIntosh?
how much can I say?
With no trade secrets.
So again, big focus around content, big focus around partnerships. Can constantly reevaluating what we're doing, and working a lot with consultants, making sure the business works as a whole rather than sales, marketing, and management. And yeah, just we've got sort of 3 campaigns going on at the moment, 1 per brand. But yeah, that's probably as much as I can say.
So everyone that's watching or listening are going to have to like stay tuned to see the development. So you don't want to give too much away.
But there is quite a lot of things happening. Some of them more short term. A lot of them obviously just being myself long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be a few changes here and there.
And consistency is going to happen. Consistently over the next 6 months. 12 months.
It won't be something you'll see overnight.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Well, thanks very much for coming on. It's been brilliant. There's been some really good stuff in there that I think people can take from in other businesses and whatever. So some sound lessons in there. So that's been great. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great. So
brilliant.
Thank you.
Good.